everyone, my name is Michelle and I'm a Teen Services Assistant at the headquarters location of the Spartanburg County Public Libraries. Thank you for joining us for our teen program today, Cosplay Workshop, Sewing Basics. Today we'll be going over some of the very basics of sewing and cosplay, sewing supplies, and how to choose fabrics for your costumes. Today I am cosplaying as Imaizumi from Yamushi Pedal. And now that introductions are out of the way, let's get started. In the Sewing Pick-Me-Up kit, you will receive a pin cushion, 2 hand sewing needles packaged carefully, thread, needle threader, a seam ripper, measuring tape, 20 sewing pins, a container of embellishments including rhinestones, beads, and buttons, some scissors, and a pouch. Let's go over some of the basic sewing supplies you might need for working on cosplay and what they're used for. I'll be listing these from left to right, top to bottom. Hand sewing needles are for sewing by hand, beadwork, basting, and more. These come in a variety of sizes and lengths. Pin cushions are basically storage for your pins and needles. You can easily take and place needles and pins back and forth from a pin cushion to your sewing project as you are working. Thread is essential. There are many types ranging from durability, cosmetic, and ones for different types of fabric. The threader is useful for threading any kind of needle. You put the metal part through the eye or hole of your needle, then put your thread through and pull it back so it threads your needle. This is very handy if you have trouble getting thread into your needle eye or struggle with this part. A seam ripper is for when you mess up a stitch or sew something wrong and need to pull out the stitch without ruining your fabric. A tape measure is a flexible ruler and useful for taking body measurements. Sewing pins are handy for pinning your pattern to the fabric and pinning 2 fabrics together so they don't move when sewing them to each other. Fabric scissors are used to cut your fabric and thread. They specifically are sharp for clean cuts to your fabric and are strictly used on fabric and thread so that they don't dull faster. The scissors with the pick-me-up kit, however, are regular scissors. When might you choose a sewing machine over hand sewing? You certainly can sew your entire outfit by hand, though it would be very time consuming. Using a sewing machine can streamline the process if you have access to one. A great way to get started with sewing and cosplay is to find existing articles of clothing that you can make slight alterations to for your costume. You might want to use a sewing machine for clothing pieces, boot covers or gloves, props or prop covers, or accessories. And vice versa, you might choose hand sewing for embroidery, beading, tough-to-reach spots, small accessories or attachments, sewing on buttons, or basting. Fiber versus weave. Fiber is what the fabric material is, and weave is how the fibers get put together to make the fabric. There are natural and synthetic fibers. Natural fibers, like cotton or silk, are easy to dye, absorbent, breathable, though plant fibers wrinkle easily and animal fibers are pretty expensive. Synthetic fibers, which are lab-made, like polyester or nylon, are strong, wrinkle-resistant, versatile, though not breathable, and difficult to dye. For weave, you have wovens and knits. In wovens, you get yarns that crisscross, and those offer minimal stretch, are generally for structured garments, and are easy for beginners to sew. Then you have knits, made up of single continuous yarn. They offer 2-way and 4-way stretch, are used for non-structured garments, but are tricky for beginners to sew. Here are some fabric types that are often used in cosplay. Muslin is unbleached cotton broadcloth. It's very cheap and really good for testing patterns. Cotton sateen is easy for beginners. It has lots of colors and a variety of uses, and is very accessible. Spandex moleskin can be tricky to work with, but is very comfortable and good for superhero costumes, and also gloves. Brocade can be very expensive, but it's heavily decorated and very good for dresses, bodices, corsets, and any expensive-looking cosplays you want to make. PVC leather is difficult to use, but is really good for jackets, pouches, boot covers, and corsets. Microsuede is soft, can add texture to your costume, and has a variety of uses. One thing to be aware of when choosing fabric for your costume is to beware of shiny satin. It may look pretty, but in pictures with flash, it makes the fabric look really cheap. With this, hopefully you're more comfortable with the basics of sewing and cosplay and are ready to jump in and give it a try. We hope you enjoyed our video, and remember, the most important thing about cosplay is to have fun. For more info, check out some of the resources linked in the description of this video, and don't forget to check out our collection at the library. We have tons of books on cosplay, sewing, and more. We also have a virtual team program every Wednesday, so follow @SCPL Teens on Instagram or Facebook to stay in the loop about programs, contests, and other giveaways. Thank you for joining us today, and happy cosplaying!